All right. Clean this up a little bit. I have a feeling some of you guys want to learn how to do a wheelie.
I think wheelies are cool.
Wheelies are pretty sweet.
They feel cool.
Yeah, they are. I remember my first wheelie.
Never forget the first one.
Yeah, and I might as well explain a little bit of what you need to know to basically learn how to do a wheelie. I mean, I didn't have a whole lot of guidance learning until I got to the point where I somewhat learned. And then a dude, Josh, came around and started helping me out, and then that's when I really learned. So I know how important it is to have someone teach you and show you the ropes, and so you skip a lot of processes that are pretty much just going to slow you down in the end. But first things first, when you're doing a wheelie, I mean, I want to learn is obviously a bike setup is totally different from any other bike you're going to ride. Every bike's different, but in the same, at the end of it all, the wheelie and the process is the exact same. But this bike in particular has a lot of low-end gearing for low-end power, so this bike is not very fast, but it's really peppy, and therefore I have to be fairly smooth when I need to have good control of the bike, because if I'm real choppy, the bike really wants to go all over the place. So that's how you're going to see a lot of riding on this bike in particular. But we got the grom that's set up with a 1445 gearing setup, so it's a little peppy too compared to a stock, but for the most part, you know, if we put it in second gear, it's going to probably feel a little bit like your first gear. So we'll just make sure we throw some of those in there in the video as well, and you kind of get the idea. But Alan over here is going to actually demonstrate a few wheelies, because he is pretty inexperienced. He rides pit bikes and can kill it on a pit bike all day, but he's working his way up to getting on groms and sport bikes. He rides a sport bike, but he doesn't do wheelies and stuff on them just yet. So he's getting there. So he's a perfect candidate for this video, and I'm going to try to walk him through and help him get a little bit better at what he's doing. He's ridden the grom a couple times and he's getting the idea. He's getting it down pretty good, but he's still not there just yet.
Super close though.
But you're there. You're getting the brake and all that all dialed, so it's like that's the most important thing. But if you come over here, you can see how my setup is. Obviously, my bars aren't down like in a stock position. My bars are upright. So this is giving me a little bit more leverage, actually a lot more leverage to handle the bike when I'm actually up in a wheelie or really in any position. But the same concept's still the same. You just kind of want to be, you know, just hang on to the bike, never let go. You'll see a lot of guys ride with 4 fingers on the clutch. Well, get yourself a nice easy pull clutch, which this is an Elite Mototech clutch. And this I can do with I can use my pinky if I want to on this clutch. But I mean, it's just sad how terrible the stock clutches are, and I don't even understand why they're so bad. But anyway, this is what you're going to want to get. You got to get a clutch. I have a handbrake on here. 90% of you guys aren't going to have a handbrake, so just don't worry about that right now. We're mainly focused on foot brakes and the clutch and the throttle. And that's the three things, and they're all equally important in this whole process of riding a wheelie. So basically, when you're holding on, make sure you get the easy pull clutch, and you want 1 finger on the clutch, because you want to be able to hang on to the handlebar. You never really want to let go of the bike unless you absolutely have to, because you'd be surprised the shit you can save when shit gets south. So just always kind of hang on and trust yourself and be smooth, and don't freak out. Don't slam on brakes or any of that when you're up there. Everything is about being smooth, a smooth process. So when I'm giving this bike throttle, when I'm giving it brake, when I'm giving it clutch or any of that, everything is applied and released smoothly. It's not, when you drop the gas real hard, the bike wants to drop real hard, and then when you try to give it gas again, you have to give it twice as much, and you gotta give it twice as fast, and it just gets really squirrely after that. So if you're dropping it smooth and you're giving it smooth, same with the brake, the bike's gonna ride smooth, and you're gonna feel it, and you're gonna have plenty of time to react to anything that goes wrong. Just keep that in mind. But now we're gonna go ahead and get Alan. Alan, you wanna grab your helmet?
Yeah, dude.
Get Alan on a bike, and we'll talk about what he's doing. And after he rides a little bit, I'll get on the ground for a second, ride it, and then I'll get on this big bike. So let's go check out Alan on this ground and see what he can do. So, and this is the same concept. I got the same clutch lever on this grom. It's an easy pull 1 finger lever, and they have an adjustment on it, so you can actually lock this screw and you can change the height, the length, and everything. So if you got small hands, you know, you can adjust that accordingly and make that thing whatever you want. But fire it up, Alan. Let's go out here and do some wheelies. Bro, he's just feeling it out. This isn't his bike, so you know, it's anybody else getting on his bike, they don't ride, they're gonna be basically a little worried about it. Oh. That's nice, he clutched it up real smooth. You know, it's a little choppy on the throttle, but that's fine. He's just feeling the bike out. There you go. Yeah, dragging the foot is definitely a good, if you have a grom, a big bike's really hard to drag the foot because you're gonna have to learn that when you're at a balance point. And right now he's going right to balance point, and not everybody's gonna be able to do that. So just take this in consideration that this is what you would do right when you're learning the brake. Oh, we stalled out. I just tapped the brake just a little too hard. But dragging that foot once you start really feeling that balance point is definitely a good, safe way to start learning. So he's kind of twisting the bike a little bit, moving the bike around, being real smooth. You can tell the smoother he is, the better he's able to ride. And it don't take a lot. It don't take the first clutch up don't take a lot of gas. But that's the most you'll ever need. See, after that, everything's just about half the amount that you started with. Oh, he's going right for the circles. We'll get into the circles on another video because that is definitely something that's a whole different ball game when it comes to doing wheelies. There's so many different ways you can do those. Do a couple more, Alan. Try to do one with your feet up, with your foot up. And try to just do a normal speed one, because right now you're killing the balance point. I'm surprised. Okay. So yeah, try to do like a regular speed one, like as if one of these guys were just learning, with not using a lot of brake, but just still using a little bit. Okay. Try to do a couple of those. Let's okay. See how it looks. So he's at a really slow speed. He's still rolling when he clutches it. There he goes. Just chasing a little bit. Yep. He wasn't real aggressive. Didn't drop the throttle too hard. So that's good. But he's still holding it up there. Yeah, if you feel yourself getting choppy, don't be afraid to just tell yourself to slow down and just kind of relax a little. That's probably what he's telling himself right there, just slow down. Yep, see, you're telling him it. I know him too well. There you go, nice and easy. Yeah, little throttle. Nice, Alan. Good. Another good tip, like not a lot of people would explain, but I mean, the first thing I was scared to do when I was riding a wheelie, or even riding the bike period in general, was I always had a fear of whiskey throttle. And everybody has that fear. I mean, if you don't, then you're all the time. But there is a way to avoid whiskey throttle, and all you have to do is break the habit early. And when you're riding, Alan's fairly good, but he can learn a little bit. He can get his arm a little bit better in position. But when you ride, you never want to have your arm up like this, straight like that. You kind of want to already have it down here bent. That means when you whiskey throttle, you really have to try to twist the throttle. So if you already start with your arm up here like this, then you're automatically going to pull the throttle. So already just start learning, even though it might be slightly uncomfortable, just bring your wrist down a little bit already before you grab the bar, and then you're sitting like this, that wrist will already be down, so you give it a little bit every time. And then over time, once you learn the bike and you ride really well and you don't have to worry about holding your wrist like that, it'll just be comfortable to put your hand on the bar like that. So that's a tip. Very, very good tip, and I wish someone would have told me that.
I might have to try that.
Yeah, yeah.
Right now.
Yep. And just like when you hit the brake a little hard out there, there's nothing wrong with that. You just don't ever freak out, you know, and slam the brake, because you could just end up end over end. Yo, what's up? You can end over end, called a mouse trap, and that's when people slam the brakes and then just slam down so hard that they come over the bars. I've seen people break their wrists. I've seen people snap bars off. I watched people just snap both his clip-ons off because he slammed down so hard. It's insane. I don't even know how a man could do that. But
good
that's
tip, though.
Yeah,
feels
good tip.
Better. It actually feels.
You feel safer as soon as you put your hand like that.
I honestly do feel a lot safer now that I think about it.
Yeah.
Because I do the same thing every time I get on the bike.
You put your arm up. Everybody does. They feel more safe grabbing it with grip, but really, you need to not do that.
I feel like and now I just gained even more control this thing, probably.
Yeah. So.
I'm gonna try it.
Cool. Right on. I'm gonna grab my helmet, and then I'm gonna jump on the ground for a second, do a couple wheelies, show you guys, give you a few more tips, and then I'll strap the GoPro on, and then we'll get out there on the bike, and you guys can join along and kind of watch my arms, how I do it, and get a full feel of what's going down and how to learn this shit. Now, a couple other things that you can do to your bike. You can lower some pressure out of your tire, which I highly recommend if you're learning wheelies. You do not want to go out there with like 40 PSI or even near that and try to learn these wheelies, because you might be able to ride it below balance point straight, but once you hit balance point, that thing's gonna be all over the place. So you're gonna at least need to drop your tire pressure on a full-size sport bike down to like, I mean, I dropped mine to like 12 to 15 when I first went out to the parking lot, and then about every time I started getting more and more comfortable, I gave it a little more pressure, all the way up to about riding on the street. I was riding like 20 psi, 15 psi on the street, just so I can contain that thing straight without focusing on left and right. Well, now on a stunt bike, I ride like 50 psi, so it's totally different. It's a different deal. You have to learn to ride a wheelie before you can just start throwing it up at 50 psi, let me tell you. So keep that in mind. And the gearing, that's a big thing. And a lot of people put idle cables on their bikes, which you will want to do eventually once you start riding those slow idle wheelies. But you can ride idle wheelies with no idle cable. It's just a lot more difficult and requires a lot more patience, and basically, you know, you gotta be real freaking smooth. So, but right now this doesn't have an idle cable, so this has got low idle, so it's a great bike to learn close to stock. So for my stunt bike, it's got an idle cable. I'll make sure I turn the idle down when I'm learning, so you guys can see the difference. I'm gonna clutch up a couple wheelies. You guys can just see what I'm doing. I'm gonna do some chase wheelies, and then I'm gonna also just ride. So just kind of watch my arms and watch what I do, see how much brake I use, and just keep in mind I get really aggressive sometimes, so I'm just gonna try to keep it smooth the way I'd want you guys to learn. The first thing is the clutch up. You know, you can keep your feet on the ground, but you need to make sure you're constantly covering the brake. You always want to make sure your right foot is on the peg. You always want to be there. And I always check the brake before I clutch it up, just to make sure I haven't gotten brake fade. Because if you're riding wheelies and you're dragging your brake a lot and you're out here for 15, 20 minutes straight doing it back and forth, you're going to feel your brake get mushy. If you do that, if you feel that, you need to stop, give it some time to cool down, because your brake is your fluid is overheated and is boiling, and at some point it's going to give out completely and you're not going to have brake. You're going to be in a wheelie and you're going to flip backwards. So just keep that in mind as well. But here we go. I'm going to do a few wheelies, and I'm just going to try to keep it as simple as possible. I'm going to clip it in a second right now, so it's a little more like what your guys' bikes would be. And that's how you do it. Now, if your bike doesn't have gearing and it's doing what I just did there, where I wasn't clutching it up, now you're sitting down on the bike, so all your weight is on the front end of the bike. There's another way to learn, and it's called staggered. You're going to put your back foot on your back rear set peg. Now, hopefully you have something like this Perfect Strangers design sub cage, so you have something to stand in. But if you don't, you still can stand on these pegs here, which I'll go ahead and just do that. I'll stand on those for you. Now, when you stand on those and you lean back, you have a lot more stability, and your weight's on the back, so it's allowing you to get this bike that doesn't have a lot of power to come up and ride. Now when I'm riding that wheelie, I'm pretty much kind of slightly dragging the brake. Not the whole time, but at least 75% of the time when I'm up there, I'm damn near just kind of slightly dragging it. Now that's obviously times when it's low, I'm taking my foot off so I can have more throttle to get it back up. But if that bike's at balance point, anywhere near up there or behind, my foot is on the brake. So just keep that in mind. It might be smooth, but that's only smooth because I'm dragging a little brake. I'll put on my 360 camera from Insta 360, and you guys can kind of zoom around and get a better idea what's going on. But first, I'm going to kill some wheelies for you. Alright, time to get on the big bike. Alright, let's get this, make sure this thing's warmed up.
Nice.
Yeah, it's nice because all the shit just stays in place. It doesn't move around in your jacket like you have on a jacket and stuff. And no one knows I have it on. So yeah, if you're doing this shit, man, make sure you're wearing some gear. Like, if you can, wear a jacket. At least I have knee pads on under here. You can't even see them, but they're there. And then
A helmet for sure, dude.
oh, you have to wear a helmet. If you don't wear a helmet, I will come. Just wear a helmet.
Just
And,
wear a helmet.
And I wear boots. I used to wear riding or skate shoes, and you know, I had to cushion my foot twice. I figured it was time to retire from skateboard shoes, even though I could jump and pull through shit easier, but I need to be able to ride and ride. I don't need to be able to have a broken ass foot.
Safety first.
So now these shoes are the shit though. Actually, I can ride in these pretty well. I like them a lot. I feel safe in them, and I feel like I can go for bigger, harder tricks, go faster, go bigger, because I don't have as much to worry about. Drink water here. Yeah, you gotta wear your gear. If you're out there falling and stuff, you don't want to be, you know, you want to be able to get up and do it again tomorrow. And I tell you what, the biggest thing you freaking want to worry about, man, is if you're out here riding, don't go on the street and just ride a wheelie anywhere, because if you're riding and you see a guardrail or light poles or any of that shit on the side, don't ride a wheelie there unless you're good at what you're doing, because that's the shit that's going to kill you. You can ride fall in this parking lot going 150 miles an hour, and I guarantee you'll be alright. You'll have some wounds, you have some scrapes, but you're going to survive. I mean, break a bone. But if you go out on the road and you crash going even 20 miles an hour and you slide just the wrong way right to a guardrail, you're done. So just keep that in mind. Come in a nice secure area and do the shit. And plus you won't have distractions or nothing. You'll be able to focus and think about what you're doing. Now the pressure in my tire right now is around like probably 45, 50 PSI. So when you see me ride, I'm gonna be a little squirrely out there. But you're not gonna be like that. Your bike's gonna be a lot more stationary once you clutch it up. So you can focus a little more on just the forward and backwards. And if your bike is wobbling or falling one way or the other, you need to get off and you need to check it or take some PSI down, or make sure that your bike wheel is actually straight with the guidelines on your axle, and just double check all that. Make sure you got good OEM brake pad. All right, I'll get some wheelies in. Guys, ready? And I'm gonna try it in first gear first. It's gonna be real choppy, so keep that in mind, but I'm gonna try to smooth it out with the brake. And you'll see the bike smooth out, and once it does, you'll notice that that's because I hit the brake. And not hit it, I drag in the brake a little bit. All right, here we go. Look like if you're dragging a little bit of brake and you're being really smooth on the throttle. And now you never want to give it a hard throttle on or off. Now I'm going to show you what it looks like to ride a wheelie with very little brake, which is probably how it's going to start out for most of you guys. So here we go. That's the difference if you're not using any brake at all. It's really hard to smooth it out, and you'll just hear your bike winding up because it's just using so much of it to keep it up. So, let's do some more shit real quick. I highly also recommend putting a cage on your bike.